We finally have news regarding how this year's restructured playoffs will work in the Arena Football League. And of course, we got some Week 7 action to get to. I'm your host, Adam Snow. You're watching Arena Football League Weekly here on the World of Football YouTube channel. Welcome in, everyone, for another week of Arena Football action. Before we get things going, I would like to remind you about some of the other content we have here on the World of Football YouTube channel. That's right, we have This Week in the World of Football, our weekly podcast that I do with my father, Randy. We talk about all things in the world of football. Just like this week, we talked about the Madden cover athlete. We talked about the LFA crowning a champion, the UFL championship game getting set, as well as the Calgary Stampeders hitting their 700th win of all time. Speaking of Canada, we also do a weekly show on the Canadian Football League called Canadian Football League Weekly. I do that with Dad as well. We just started it up last week. Go check that out. Week 2 should be up early next week. And for those of you who are interested, we also do a show called Just Lying Around, a Detroit Lions podcast. That's me and my brother-in-law, Kyle. And we'll probably get some of those videos coming shortly. So if you'd be so kind, go check those out. We'd greatly appreciate it. Now, let's get into recapping all that happened this week in the Arena Football League, starting with the Nashville Cats traveling out to Billings, Montana to take on the Billings Outlaws, giving the Outlaws their first loss of the season in an exciting 57-54 victory that came down to the final seconds of the game. Leading the charge for the Cats was new starting quarterback Randy Hippard, an AFL vet who saw his first league action since 2019 when he played with the Atlantic City Blackjacks. During the game, Hippard would go 34 of 38 for 321 yards and throw for 6 touchdowns. The Cats came roaring back despite being down 46-28 at one point during the game, but unlike some of those recent comeback attempts, this one actually stuck the landing, putting the Billings home crowd into a stunned silence. If you get a chance to go check out the end of that game, do it. When that final touchdown happens, you could feel all the air getting sucked out of that arena. It was really awesome to see. It was awesome to see the Cats finally mount a successful comeback for a change. They've been a very plucky team, so good for them on getting that victory. And, for Billings, it's not the end of the world. It's one loss. They played tough, and I'm sure going forward, they're still going to be one of the contenders when it comes to the playoffs and even the Arena Bowl. For the second time in 3 weeks, the Albany Firebirds and the West Texas Desert Hawks got into an electric battle that once again saw Albany leaving with a narrow victory, 73-70. This game would even need an overtime to decide the outcome. Albany remains unbeaten thanks to the play of quarterback Jake Medlock, who accumulated 7 touchdowns during this game, 5 through the air and 2 on the ground. Firebirds receiver Darius Prince also had 11 catches for 143 yards and brought in 3 touchdowns. Albany was up 41-20 at halftime, and the plucky Desert Hawks climbed back into the game behind quarterback Jonathan Bain, who slung the rock for 326 yards and threw for 6 touchdowns. Despite the Desert Hawks again putting in a great performance, only to come up short, the team did part ways with head coach Chris Siegfried. The exact details on the split weren't really put out there, other than the coach alluding on his X account that at the end of the day, they were 3-4, not acceptable, it's a business, and a tough decision was made. While the Firebirds remain unbeaten, that makes it 4 straight losses for the Desert Hawks after starting 3-0. Yeah, for Albany, they just always find ways to win. It's really awesome to see. They're clearly a team to be modeled after. Can they make it through the playoffs? Continuously playing like that? It's hard to say. They've found so many ways to win. At some point, it's going to have to go the other way, right? But we'll find out. And for the Desert Hawks, they're so close to it. It's the opposite for them. They just got to go the other direction. They got to figure a way to capitalize and come out on the other end of those, tough losses. And we'll see what the interim head coach does. I don't know if that's been announced yet, but we'll see if the Desert Hawks can at least, cling to a playoff spot and get in there and maybe get some retribution later on. The Salina Liberty had their way with the Washington Wolfpack 42-7. While many people might put the victory on the shoulders of quarterback Jamario Benson or halfback Tracy Brooks, the Salina defense deserves plenty of credit, not only for holding the Wolfpack to 7 points, but also putting up 12 total sacks during this game. Yeah, I tried to find more specific stats on this game. If you go to the league website, they've been a lot better about the stats, but you go to this game, and there's really nothing there. It's really hard to find stats. They had some stats there, but it seemed like that was like season total stats, so it couldn't really single out anything from this game. And even the articles on the league website didn't really give any stats, so I don't know what the deal is there. I wish I could give you some more specifics on how some of these players did and highlight some guys, but looks like they're still working out some kinks from that. Sunday saw the Southwest Kansas Storm get the best of the Wichita Regulators 35-12. Wichita would be held scoreless in the second half, and the final 6.5 minutes would have no scoring in it. Yeah, it seemed like this game, another tight, maybe defensive game. Again, this was a game where I tried to find some stats to better understand how this game went, and there was nothing. Again, same problem. There was no stats there from this game, at least at the time of putting this show together. It's I don't know if they just don't have the right things in place there to take all that down. I don't know, but I did skim through these highlights though, because again, the league, while putting up highlights on their website, they're not really helping you as a fan grasp how this game fully went. So if you missed the game like I did, it's hard to grasp exactly how the game went. I did scrub through, look for some key moments, and did I obviously noticed that they didn't score anything in the last 6.5 minutes. The Regulators were held, were shut out in the second half. So we'll see going forward. But I mean, Southwest Kansas likes to play low scoring and keeping teams, from slinging the ball around. It seems like, at least that's what they try to do. They kind of have their own little brand of football they're trying to execute there in Southwest Kansas, which is interesting. We'll see how that goes up against some of the other teams come playoff time. All right, on bye this week, the Orlando Predators once again. That's 2 weeks in a row now. And let's go look at the league standings through 7 weeks. At the top spot, you got the Albany Firebirds at 7-0. Then the Billings Outlaws at 5-1. The Salina Liberty at 4-2. The Orlando Predators at 3-2. By the way, I figured out that the Predators 3-2, they were awarded a forfeit victory against the Voodoo, I think in week 3, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why they got that win. I was a little confused last week, but just to clarify that, if you're as curious as I was. Then you have the Southwest Kansas Storm at 4-3, the Nashville Cats at 3-4, West Texas Desert Hawks at 3-4, the Wichita Regulators at 1-4, and the Washington Wolfpack at 1-5. Now we're going to look ahead at next week's matchups. Should be a good slate of games. We have 4 games this upcoming weekend, all of them on Saturday, starting with the Washington Wolfpack traveling to Billings to take on the Outlaws. The Orlando Predators will rematch against the Albany Firebirds up in Albany. The Salina Liberty will take on the Wichita Regulators, and the Southwest Kansas Storm will travel down to West Texas to play the Desert Hawks, and then on bye this week, the Nashville Cats. All right, that's it for all that stuff. Now we're going to talk about some news of the week. And of course, the big news item is the fact that we have parameters now for the upcoming Arena Football League playoffs that I'm actually very excited about and very interested in the format they decided to go with. So there will be a 5-team playoff structure with the top 5 teams and winning percentage getting the bids. Any ties will be settled by head-to-head record, then head-to-head points scored, and then average points scored per game played. The first round, which is essentially like a play-in game, will be played on July 5th or 6th, depending on the home arena availability. During that weekend, the 5th seed will play the 4th seed to advance to the semifinals. Now, I like this, and they have a nice example up after, following kind of where the standings are right now. So as of right now, it would be the Southwest Texas Storm traveling to Orlando to play the Predators, and they would play, the winner would end up playing the number 1 seeded Albany Firebirds. And then obviously in the other semifinal game, you'd have the Billings Outlaws hosting the Salina Liberty. And then those winners obviously playing Arena Bowl 33 on July 19th. Now, a few things to also glean from this. 3 weeks of playoffs there, or like a play-in weekend, the semifinals, then the Arena Bowl, and the fact that they are using Arena Bowl 33 and they're not calling it like Arena Bowl 2024 or anything, which we speculated about earlier in the year before the whole shuffle and everything. I'm very excited to see that. Hopefully we get a cool logo or, design for the Arena Bowl logo. Hopefully that'll come sooner rather than later. But it's finally nice to kind of get an outlook on what these playoffs could or should look like, because I get that they've had a lot of problems. There's teams that aren't going to have as many games played at the end of the year as other teams. Orlando just had 2 bye weeks, so they're going to obviously have less games than, say, Albany, who seems like they'll have all 10 games, stocked away. So going by winning percentage, I get, so I'm fine with that. But I do like the idea of this play-in game and taking that last spot. It makes it a little interesting because, I mean, we do actually have some solid teams here that deserve to be in there fighting for that last spot. Like Nashville, I think, could start pulling in and get one of those last seeds there. So we have a lot of drama now building up as we get to the Arena Football League playoffs. I'm actually really into it. I really like kind of how everything's set up there. So it's just about time we finally got some playoff news. It finally seems like this league's got some structure going forward because, like we talked about last week, they hired Gary Compton last week as the new director of football ops. We kind of talked about it at the end of the show last week. He's got a great interview with the Arena Football League podcast on their YouTube channel there. If you get a chance to go listen to it, check it out. Between Gary Compton and Jerry Kurz coming back, I'm very confident now in the direction this league will be heading in going into the future. What that means for some of the teams and coaches and organizations, I mean, it's all up in the air, and they're doing their due diligence to make sure going forward we have a great product on the field and organizations that can be stable. So I'm all about that, and Gary Compton seems like one of the best men to do that for us. And also, this was a news item that came out after I put up the show last week, and that's the hiring of Tracy Linen. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name. She was appointed as the president of football administration for the Arena Football League. She comes with 23 years of NFL experience. So between Jerry Kurz, Gary Compton, and now Tracy Linen, they have made some really interesting and very purposeful hires to get this league back on track. And I think right now where we're sitting with the Arena Football League, sure, I think there's a few things that could still be cleaned up. Some of the broadcast still has some issues, but I like that we're getting all the games at least broadcast on YouTube. We're starting to get highlight packages, even though they were only like a minute long last week. So hopefully they can expand on that. I get it, baby steps. Maybe I'm asking a little too much right now. I get it, but I'm liking where this league is heading now with a playoff structure that I can get behind. My only other gripe about the playoff structure, though, is it did say that they're looking at having a neutral site for the July 19th game. I'm still not a fan of the neutral site Arena Bowl game. I will be a stickler about that. I think that the best team should host it. And right now, if it were Albany in that Arena Bowl, I would have to say Albany should host it. They got a great fan base there in Albany, and I think the number one seed deserves to host the championship game, at least in the Arena League right now, starting out for a few years. I think rewarding the fan bases that turn out for these teams, that support these teams, and that community deserve it. Like, I will never forget Arena Bowl 15 when I was there for the Grand Rapids Rampage hosting a championship game. It was awesome, and everybody showed up, and it was a big stinking deal, and there was nothing quite like it. When they moved to the neutral Arena Bowls, I don't know, it lost its luster, not lost its luster, but it lost a little bit of the fan aspect of what made the Arena Football League great. And I hope that's something that these guys running the league going forward remedy. Maybe I'm in the minority on that, but we'll see what they end up doing. I don't think it's impossible for the neutral site to work. I feel like teams like a Grand Rapids would have gotten robbed of such a great experience like that had it been a neutral site game. Because not everybody in like Grand Rapids, Michigan could travel out to Las Vegas or California, Los Angeles, or Miami, wherever they want to host a neutral site game. It's a little harder on your fans. And would fans in certain regions like a Miami or a Vegas even care about a team from Billings, Montana, or a team from Southwest Kansas if they made it in? I just don't know about that. But what do you guys think? So we're going to wrap the show up this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You can find the World of Football on various social media platforms. Go check us out there. There's links down in the description below. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe. We're getting really close to our 1,000 subscribers. It's been really cool. I know the arena videos have got a little bit of traction from people. It's been really nice, chit-chatting and talking with people down in the comments. It means a lot to me, a lot of the positive feedback from you guys, because I just love the Arena Football League. I know a lot of you love the Arena Football League, so it's always fun to talk about it with like-minded individuals. So, yeah, guys, I've been Adam Snow, and we'll see you guys next week.